We all set?
Yes, we're set.
Next item on the agenda is the discussion regarding the 2021 ward redistricting, total number of alderman districts, and the number of alderpersons per aldermanic district.
Mr. President,
Alderwoman Keene.
I had suggested to bring this to council. I thought this was a good time with the census being completed. I know it had been talked about before. However, I think now is a good opportunity to revisit. I personally find that there would be some pros to moving one alderperson per district. Few of the reasons is, and also making that an odd number, whether it be 9, 11 would be my preference. And that's just because if something is brought to the council, I think it should be handled by the council and it avoids ties. I also think that having one alderperson does not duplicate efforts. I'm sure a lot of us has had, as Alderwoman Grisham and I, where someone calls me, I'm not available for work. I call them when I get off of work and they tell me the same item. However, they also called Alderwoman Grisham and told her. Now, luckily, we partner very well together and we communicate often. However, there has been some times where I've jumped in and sent an email where an email might have already been sent. So I just think for efficiencies and not duplicating efforts, having one alderperson would be beneficial. It would require the alderperson obviously to be fully engaged. Sometimes I feel as there is two, there could be different messages being told to citizens. And then you'll just have more representation. So different ideas. And then as far as the size goes, as I said, I think that, potentially looking at what we are now, right now with 10 alderpersons and the population of 60,329 as of 2018, that was potentially 6,033 citizens per alder, which seems manageable. I don't know what the new population report is as of the census. I think that would be good information for us to know on how we'd go forward with the amount of districts. But I just think that sometimes having one alderperson would be beneficial. To play devil's advocate myself, some of the cons is, if you are gone for a week out of pocket, citizens might get a little upset with not having the response time that they're looking for. As I stated before, depending on who your partner in crime is, collaboration, which I found very beneficial with education and learning. But I really just wanted to open this up to everyone and kind of get everyone's thoughts on it, since now is the time with the census. So that's kind of where I stand with it. One alderperson, potentially looking at an odd amount of districts. 11, just as an FYI, based on a population of the 60,329 would give approximately 5,500 citizens per alder.
Mr. President?
Oh, go ahead.
Alderwoman Grisham.
Okay, I have a few things, pros and cons, to take a look at this. I would want to know, how are we redistricting for one? Secondly, I think is having 2 alders per district, and obviously I think we have 11,000 in our district. I think it's very beneficial to have that balance of power for one, collaboration, accessibility. All of those things are very, very important. And yes, I guess if we would measure how many times, as Alderwoman Keene stated, a constituent may reach out to both of us because obviously they want an answer right away. However, I think it's very imperative, as Dana and I have led by example, is that the right knows what the left's doing. So the right hand is communicating with the left hand, and we do check-ins. And I think that's a great partnership. I can't say as to how other districts are running or work together as alders, but I think it's imperative that we have that balance between having 2. And that's not just for when we're on vacation. It's really having that collaboration as to what vision and representation is for your district. So I guess going back to that first point I made, what would this districting look like? And how would that work in having, say, Dana and I, or Alderwoman Keene and I are within blocks of each other? There's a lot of different variables to look at in this. So I guess that would be my first question, but I wouldn't necessarily be in favor at this juncture without knowing how this would work, that we redistrict or, have only one per district. I am in favor, however, it would make sense to have an odd number, although that's not always necessary either, because obviously Mayor Devine has that tie-breaking vote. So we already have a body in that position.
I'm going to ask Mr. Decker to respond to the redistricting.
Sure. The way it's going to work is the county will provide us with a plan, and then the council itself is going to draw the new wards based upon that plan. It should happen sometime in the early to mid-summer this year. And ultimately, what's likely going to happen as far as how it works practically, a staff person, potentially me, potentially someone in the GIS department, is going to present the council with a draft map to consider. And that's going to be based upon the standards in the law, talking about compactness of wards and districts, and also using major roadways, railways, and other features to separate into what appear to be the most contiguous and most compact groups based upon the number of districts that the council wants us to draw. So we need some directive from the council first on that, and then we can draw the maps and present it. Then you would simply make motions to amend that map to fit the nature of the law. There are some flexible areas within the law that don't necessarily need to be followed, or there's not a hard mathematical calculation on how to create those. So that is practically how it would work. And ultimately the council by a majority vote would have to adopt a map.
Obviously, there's no hard or fast rules because of the way the state redistricted the last time. They drew all kinds of goofy areas and districts. So
the state gets to operate on entirely different rules than us. We are more regulated than them because they create the regulations.
So in turn, I have that secondary question. How does that look as far as, alders living within their district? It's redistricted. How does that work when you have two that live within 2 blocks of one another? Are all the alders that are serving right now
so I can
going to keep their seats?
So the way I have to answer that is it's up to you, because ultimately the council drafts I draft the draft map, but ultimately it's going to be approved. So if the council is not able to draw a map where alders are not competing against each other, that's what would happen in the next election. Would be alder persons would eventually run on the same ticket if they're in the same district. But
those would be for 2024, just to clarify.
Correct. All the current terms right now would go through 2024, no matter what happens with the districts.
Right.
But only in the 2024 is when things would switch over.
Okay, and I don't want to take up too much time because I'm sure there's others that have input, but I was reading some of the information that was sent out to us as far as the comparables to different cities, and it seems like we're pretty much within, what a lot of other municipalities are doing. Some are up to 12 and 16 alders. However, it's interesting, some of that data saying, yes, this is a part-time job, so to speak. We don't do it really for the money. We do it for the service to our community. But in coupling the fact that I don't know what's happening in other people's districts as far as how many calls you field, and I'm going to be facetious about this, I could have one constituent in mind that takes up all my 20 hours.
Takes up all of ours.
True that. But honestly, that would be my concern. It's more the balance of running the district that is more concerning to me. And it's not about the work that I'm putting in. It's really about the citizens who are gaining from having that representation. That's really what it is all about. So now I'm going to yield to everyone else.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Vitale.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the verge of really at this point. Back, I believe it was over 10 years ago, we did restrict the districts, but there was really no discussions in reference of make changes in regard the aldermanic per district. What was not even, nothing was brought forward at that time. We did redistrict it, based on the county, and so we made the changes. But the fact, like Alderperson Christian says, if you look the percentage of the communities that really, I mean, we not really exceed really in percentage as alderpersons that we provide to alderperson per district. Never have occur any problem throughout the years, as far as I know, even before that. So all of a sudden last year, it has been an issue now to reduce the amount of the older persons. Again, I feel, what's the reason for? So you got two aldermen, and I agree with the fact that is if one goes on vacation or somebody don't answer the phone, it's always somebody else could answer the phone or the emails. So to me, we have in West Dallas a good system. Each alderman per district, you serve the committee. So each alderperson from the district, they all allocated in different committees. So we all serve our district, and the way it's been designed by this community, I believe it's been working well. So to me, I see this come forward again for discussions. I mean, what's the purpose? How much, if we cut some benefits, well, fine. If you want to take out the insurance from the older person, that's fine. It's the one thing, take something away, But the fact is, two aldermen per district has been workable. You go in Wauwatosa, they got 15 guys to deal with. So we only 10 of them. And we are over 60,000 and 300 some thousand people. Like I said, over 5,000 per older person in our districts in West Dallas. So what really is the problem here? To me, I mean, I was opposing before when the outgoing older persons, they proposed that, which they should have done when they were in office. But because they were leaving the government, the city government, well, they come up with a brilliant idea. I mean, I could do the same thing. Let's be realistic here. Never was a problem in West Dallas throughout the history. Now, all of a sudden, it's been a problem since last year because two outgoing older person, they decided, well, we got to make some changes here. Well, because you're not running for re-election. That's the sole reason. I want to be honest about it. I don't play games. I don't play games.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Vitale, I just want to indicate, since I've been on the council, there have been a number of people that have talked about, not introduced formally, but talked about the idea of going to one alderman per district. And the only reason that was given over the years is because when it comes to election time, most people don't like the fact that they have to run against their partner who they work with all year. It makes it difficult in some situations. So you end up, you may not be running against that person, but you are running against that person, whether you want to or not. So, because you're on the ballot. And that's the only thing that over the years, I have heard people want to not have to run against the people that the person they're working with. However, that being said, every time we've talked about it, it's been shot down because you either had to have somebody had to go to a 2-year term, so it was staggered, and you'd have one older person elected every 2 years, even though they represented the same district, or you divide it up, and that only comes once every 10 years, and you've got, issues with that. So it has been talked about, and it was talked about at length in the last council, as you know, and the finance committee booted it to this council and said,
but I want to
make a decision. We're going to leave that to the next council because they're the ones that have to deal with redistricting. So that's what this is. This is the council that's going to have to deal with it, whether you want to or not. Alderperson King brought it up, and as a discussion point, and I commend her for that. It's worthy of discussion. Well, that's another matter.
President Lysick?
Yeah, just let me finish.
Oh, I'm
31
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So 31
Vince,
years I've been in the
please.
council, I never heard that before. You know, Alderman
have.
Lysak, I must say, maybe somebody talked to you about it throughout the years,
Yep.
but in 31 years, I never heard that. This is first time they last year came in front of us. I do agree with Alderperson Keene that she brought that forward. I think that's fine. I mean, I don't see that, because this, to me, the way I look at it, if the next council 4 years from now, they want to make changes, she'll be. But in my strong approach, we should live as it is. I mean,
Okay.
that's my
Thank
feeling.
you.
Sure.
Alderperson
Thank you.
Grisham.
Yeah, kind of to go back to the fact that this really isn't about us. It's about our taxpayers and how we represent them. If anything, I would like this to be further explored then. We do surveys on a whole lot of things. Why don't we reach out to those that we represent and see how they feel about that? We're making decisions for them. Why aren't we listening to maybe how they perceive this? As Alderman Vitale had mentioned, prior to the new alders taking the seat, there was changes made, and maybe the public doesn't realize that those changes were that benefits were taken for the new alders. I mean, it's not unreasonable to say Vitale has a good point. There was a pay increase for those that still kept their benefits. And then for those that came in, we got the same pay without any benefits. And that's not here nor there. Like I said, reason I represent is because I, want to serve the community, but I want to do what's in their best interest. And I don't think, worried about running against our colleague is a real valid reason whatsoever. No, it wouldn't be fun, but that's politics. And that's how, the cookie crumbles. So I really don't support this. And I just need to make that clear.
Mr. President.
Alderman Stefanski.
I think for District 2, I know Marty and I work together very well because it works out very good with my daytime job, that Marty's available a lot of times during the day to check things out that I can't because I'm at my day job. And so we communicate with each other. And I think that's beneficial to the constituents. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of this either.
Mr. President,
Alderman Weigel.
I just wanted to speak about the nature of the job. Okay, so I've been on 20 years, and when I came on, there was essentially no email, and there was no cell phone, and we did not have, well, there were cell phones, but they weren't as ubiquitous as they are today. And I just want to talk about how much the job has changed. The job has become a lot more about policy decisions and representing people in a sense of what the public wants, and much less a service job. We have in the last couple of years moved most of those neighbors, tall grass, leaves, peeling paint things are either done automatically by staff or are done by our constituents online. And quite frankly, most of the phone calls I get are from citizens, I'm going to say my age and over, the less internet savvy, the people who still want to talk to somebody. But I think the job's become, I'm not going to say simpler, but it's less a service job for dealing with, because, okay, now granted the 3rd district, you've got a special issue there in the 3rd district. I get that. But quite frankly, it's become more about policy, and that's good. And again, how many people here still have an answering machine at home that you have to come home to at the end of the day and rewind the tape and listen to constituent calls? Okay, I'm going to bet that all of us, when I came on 20 years ago, the number I put out for constituents was my cell phone. And one of the former aldermen, he's former now, said, "Marty, you're crazy. People are going to be calling you." And I said, "Well, yeah, I want, if you can talk to them on the first go round, it's just much more efficient, And I'm going to bet, I don't know, I'm going to bet most of you have your personal cell phone number or business cell phone number that you carry with you as your constituent contact. That's how much this job has changed. It's become a lot less hand-holding for the citizens, but a lot more about policy. like we spent the last 45 minutes on talking about the Public Works building, so I could be in favor of more district, one per district, or I could support staying here. I like the idea of finding out what our citizens want, but wording of a questionnaire is going to have enough depth to it so people understand what we're really talking about and what the pros and cons would be. So, thank you.
President Lysak, can I answer to that a
Yes.
little bit?
Alderman, good question, yes.
Thank you. I guess in looking at the redistricting altogether, as Alderman Weigel had stated, a lot of it is policy. And great example in the discussion we had about Public Works, for example. We're then making decisions for things that we have to answer to after the fact. So I think with that being said, that weight and measure or that balance comes together with having the two. Because I'll tell you, as many conversations as Alderwoman Keene and I have, and we check in at least once a week, we brainstorm, we collaborate. There's a lot of things, that we look at for our particular district. As I said, I don't know how the others pair together, but I think if there's only one, that gives all that weight to that one person. And yes, we're coming together as a council, but I don't think in the long run, it really benefits because you miss the window on that factor that collaboration matters greatly as well. And yeah, we have technology, it's advanced, but make no mistake, the way I look at it, my job is to be out there with the people. It's not just the matter of them coming to me. We field policy, we field ideas on development, things like that. I'm maybe a bit more invested on my end. I have no idea, but it's a lot more than the 16 hours I was told it might have been. And I knew that going in. So that's why I made the commitment. But, and that balance factor of, people's daytime jobs, because we have a younger council coming in. We have a senior council that we're not quite sure what that's going to look like in the next 4 years. And think about that. If we have a number of seats that turn over and we have new people in that position, I can tell you 8 months in, 9 months in, I'm still learning. And Marty, kudos to all those that have been senior on this council because you have 20 years experience. Think about giving up that seat, redistricting, and then having someone new like Dana, myself, and Angelito coming in. We have counted on you guys as our senior alders to kind of pass that torch and be mentors to us in the same sense, because there's a lot to learn about the dynamics of the city and how we represent. So again, I'm being long-winded. I'm sorry. I'm just not in favor.
Mr. President, I don't know how we could maybe go about doing a survey. Like I said, I think right now, to Vince's point, you had asked why now. It's really because of the census. Right now is a good time to do it. We have updated numbers, we have updated statistics, we have updated facts. So not that anything was not working before. I don't bring this up because it's not working for me to work with a second alder person. Suzette and I get along great. The collaboration is great. I just thought that having, not even lessening the amount of alders, potentially having the same amount or even increasing by one or so would be beneficial. With the one alder per person, you would end up having less constituents. So you could potentially, now that you are on your own, have a bit more time within those citizens. You're talking about, a difference of almost probably about 600 citizens per alder by potentially redistricting to 11 wards with one alder per. And then I also think that with redistricting to 11 wards, you're going to have more people with different point of views. Because if we think about it, even in our district alone, what someone on 84th Street concerns are not going to be the same as someone on 121st Street and vice versa. So I feel like you could have an alder person more centrally located within their area that they live, potentially based on how the maps are drawn. We don't know that yet, but that's why I find it to be beneficial. So I don't know if Kale or Rebecca can chime in on if we can work on a survey to get it out, if we can have a poll sent, what that would entail, what the details would be in there. Again, this isn't an ordinance. This is solely a discussion just based on the time of it being census. So
Mr.
We,
President,
go ahead.
Ms. Grill.
I'm just finding out from our Director of Communication, the next newsletter that goes out is in April 15th, but we have a variety of other ways that we can survey people or poll people through our other notification emails, website, social media, whatever the council would like us to do, we certainly can make that work.
Well, if there's, Gail, how much time do we have before we have to do redistricting?
So April 1st is when everything's going to come out. The county's going to have 60 days. So we have to know probably by June 1, but we really should know hopefully by the end of April, because I expect the county to get that
Okay.
map to us soon.
Can we, Rebecca, can we do a quick survey and between now and say the beginning of April to get maybe whatever feel we can from people?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, why don't we do that and see what the results are after that?
President Lysak, I have one more point to that. Can that be brought to us before it's submitted out so we can approve and review how the survey is worded? So there's just not any confusion saying, hey, do you want one or do you want two? Because, you know, there should be, I guess, representation, what that means and what that would look like. So I guess I would be curious, rather than just sending out a survey, that we actually hit the right, a variety of demographic as well. So I know we have a variety of ways to get information out. I just want to know that we're getting the right representation or the right results from that survey. Because if it's that same, 100 people that reply, I don't think we're really getting an accurate assessment of what that decision will be for people in the future. So that would be my only request, is that maybe we have the information as to what that survey looks like as a council.
President Lysak? Could I ask a
Rebecca,
question
maybe,
too?
sure.
There's
Alderman
no
Vitale, go
problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for our attorney, Kel. Kel, when we get the county come forward with the redistricting, we don't really have to do any changes to redistrict our 5 districts. We can just keep it as it is. That's my
That's
question.
that would be very mathematically improbable.
Okay,
Because there's likely a pretty significant population shift east, west, north, south. It might spread people out, might compact people. We've had some pretty big developments in the last 10 years that have really compacted residential in the
Mhm.
6 Points area. So I'm actually expecting the map to come back with some pretty significant changes that are going to have to be made to the district boundaries.
okay,
Right.
thank you.
I would agree. Okay, Rebecca, if you could, when you get this put together, if you could just shoot us an email with the details, and then if an older person has an objection, they can contact you personally.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
And moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.